This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
All right. Again, want to give God the glory, and again, don't take these days for granted. Give us another opportunity to teach and develop these young men not about the game of football, but the game of life. Just comments about the last game. I think the one thing that I'm, if you want to say, proud of is one or two things. One, we played hard throughout the whole game. Really proud of the way they stood in there and did a lot of good things and had a chance to win throughout the whole football game. So I'm proud of that. The other thing is I watched the tape. I was kind of proud of the way our guys handled the discipline. There was quite a little bit of extracurricular activities going on as you watch the tape, and our guys backed off from some of those things. So I'm proud of the way they handled those type of things of that nature, where we didn't get into any penalties having to do with those things. So I'm looking forward to this next ball game because it's a great challenge. Excited about it because it's right here in the state of Virginia. First opportunity to play Virginia and playing in-state, and obviously they're a formidable opponent, very talented in a lot of ways. And so it's going to be one of our greatest challenges that we're going to have to face this year. Bronco Mendenhall, I guess I can sit here and say really, again, we're not a close friend, but I can say we're a friend because we do dialogue ever since he's been here. Came from BYU over here to Virginia. I've had some conversations with him just about life, just about a head coach, responsibilities in coaching and just developing young men and how he has done things in the past, how he's doing things today. He's an outstanding football man, number one, and an outstanding football mind. I really admire him in a lot of ways. He truly knows how to develop young men in just our dialogue and conversations. And part of it is we're both on the American Football Coaches Association's board of trustees. So we kind of get together at least twice a year in that part, but also we got each other's phone numbers and text and cell phone and be able to communicate. So we have some good dialogue when we get a chance to meet, and it's always good to grow, talk about football, talk about life, and he's one of those guys that I admire truly. A little bit more from the X's and O's defensively. They run a 3-4 front. Coach Howell there, they're very multiple. What I mean in the multiple part of it is they're always going to show something and do another. A lot of different ways, a lot of different situations. The front four, the three linebackers, really the four linebackers, and then their secondary. There's just a lot of things that are going on, and they do a pretty good job of disguising things on the post snap. And so it's going to be a tremendous challenge for everybody. It's just not the quarterback that he got to make his reads, but really everybody on the offensive side of the ball. I think defensively, personnel-wise, the Thornhill kid there stands out. I think he's a kid from Alta Vista, very talented. He's all over the place, makes plays from sideline to sideline. He's also a physical player, but he's athletic enough where he can run and also cover receivers. So I really like what he's about. Xander, the linebacker, I think those two guys are the leading tacklers on their team, and 33, he does a very good job of being physical, reads things in the right way, and so we got to make sure we count for him. Then the other guy is Peace last night, number 13. Very athletic, physical guy, has good length, and we got to keep an eye on him to making sure that he doesn't cause too much havoc, and we've been able to do what we need to do. He has had 6 sacks. Their offense, again, they're very explosive. The quarterback, he starts it all. Very talented dual threat guy. Can run, can throw. He makes a lot of things happen with his legs as he's making throws, and then also he can just take off running. He breaks a lot of tackles, breaks a lot of tackles in the pocket, breaks a lot of tackles outside the pocket. So he's a very good player. And in each and every game, you see him become more comfortable, more confident as far as he's playing. So he's definitely a player that we got to be on. Receivers, they're fast, they're quick. They got 2 or 3 of those guys. I think number 27, Number 4, they're really quick and fast. 84, they're solid receivers, and they do a very good job of doing what they need to do. Special teams, I guess just like they do on offense, just like they do on defense, and they even go into special teams. They do a lot of little different things that you got to scheme. You got to be prepared. If you're not prepared, then they're going to expose you. So myself and my coaching staff, we got to do a very good job this week of making sure that we cover all our bases in all 3 phases, because they do a lot of different things that you got to make sure that you cover. Otherwise, it'd be a little bit tough on you. Injuries, Damian King is out. Zach Fouts, he is doubtful. B.J. Farrell is questionable. I think the keys to the game, again, it's going to come down to turnovers. We must not have any turnovers. Hopefully we can get 2+ or 3 turnovers in this ball game to give us a great chance there. And then obviously looking at all the games that we won, games that we lost, we got to make sure we continue to have those explosive be minimized from a defensive perspective. Offensively, we got to have more than what they have. And I think that games that we've calculated, the 20-yard plays, runs, or passes, then we've been a lot more successful being able to have a chance to win the games when we do that. When we don't win the explosives, meaning 20 yards or more, we have not been as successful. So open up for questions.
Coach, at this point in the year, as you evaluate your defense and look at your personnel, your coaching staff, I know one thing that you said after the game on the radio was that collectively the staff has to coach better. Can you kind of elaborate on that now a couple days later that you've seen the tape and have been able to kind of evaluate everything?
Well, it starts with me. I got to coach my coaches better. I got to make some calls better, assisting my coaches during the game. Offensively or defensively or special teams. So it all starts with me. So we can continue to evaluate. We continue to look at things from a defensive perspective, what you can do, what you can't do, personnel, scheme. Every week we always look into those type of things and trying to give you the best chance for your players to be in position. Obviously, they got to go out and make the tackles. They got to go out and make the plays and all those different things of that nature. So that's always continued evaluation. I have confidence in Coach Wimberly. I have confidence in my whole defensive staff. I have confidence in my whole staff. Again, this is a transition year. There's going to be a lot of ups. There's going to be a lot of downs, and that's kind of what has happened this football season. Also, on the positive side of it, we still got 4 football games to play. We still have an opportunity to do the things that we want to get accomplished. Hopefully, can become bowl eligible. We can't control if we get in a bowl to a certain extent, but we still have opportunities to do the things that we can do. And to say after 8 football games, there's a lot of teams can't say that. And so, again, in this transition of year, I'm proud of where we're at this point in time. We got still an opportunity to play for some things.
Is there anything at this point you can pinpoint to kind of fix some of because some of it, like you said, the explosive plays have been a recurring theme, a recurring issue for the defense. Is there anything at this point that when you sit down with Coach Wimberly, you guys can kind of evaluate and say, hey, we need to do this or X, Y, or Z?
I'm going to keep that between me and him and my defensive staff.
Was sporting a pretty big protective brace on his right forearm, and he's listed as a starter for right tackle. Is he still good to go, and is there going to be any lingering issues with that right forearm?
We've got a lot of people with bumps and bruises, so I think every day there might be some situations where guys may be available, they may not be available. So he's always been available. It's just been a coach's decision of deciding to go with other guys, as far as Isaacson and other guys that have been playing tackle, Crawford. We're still evaluating guys, and so he's available. Again, a lot of guys got bumps and bruises. He's full throttle, can play.
With Ben Fielder at least getting more reps at left guard, is that a reason why you're moving Damian Bounds to backup center so that way he can focus on that while you get Fielder-Lease and McCall and Crawford more reps in there at the guard position?
Part of it is a little bit just trying to get him a little bit more exposure at center. Probably is a little bit more for the future than it is maybe immediate as far as this year. Being Fielder-Lease, if we had to play him this game, he's going to play center, I'm saying, if Sargent goes down. So it's a little bit of something that we're looking at in the future and just trying to get more reps for preparing him as we move forward to see if that's a better spot for him.
Coach, how important is this game for you guys? They're right down the road recruiting-wise.
Well, every game's big, particularly in our brand. We see ourselves as a national brand. So wherever we play a football game, it's all very, very important. And I think it's important here, obviously here in the state of Virginia. We've got a great opportunity to show people, first time we've ever played them, and have a great exposure. They got a great name and name brand as far as in every aspect. And for us to even have a chance to play them, that's a great thing in itself, and we thank God for that. So it's going to take advantage for us in a lot of ways. I think it's another way, whether we win or lose, even the recruits, we're playing Virginia. You want to play against the best. You want to know where you're at. So I think it's advantageous no matter what the results are going to be. It's advantageous in recruiting, both nationally and regional.
When you had a chance to go back and evaluate what Buckshot's performance was Saturday with a career-high 4 interceptions, where did you see any possible breakdowns, or do you take a couple of those interceptions? That one was at the end of regulation on a Hail Mary, and the second one was on a pass where AGG was essentially tackled on his route, and he had to go to a secondary option in Stubbs.
Well, again, some things are Buckshot. Some of it's him. As far as in the pocket, not keeping his eyes down the field and making appropriate throws. Some of it's the receivers running the wrong route. All the other things that go on as far as tackling him, receivers, all that, that's up to the officials to make those calls. There's some things he needs to improve on. There's some things we got to improve on as an offense. And so we all got to get better. So we've had some good performances, but there's still one or two plays that have been making a difference in the ball game, even from an offense perspective. You can sit here and say whatever the defense has done or hasn't done, we still have left some plays on the offensive side of the ball that should not have occurred. And so we got some good experienced people. Feel good about Buckshot. Again, we're playing some good opponents, and we got to be able to rise to the occasion when those opportunities present itself.
Coach, last time you guys played an ACC team back in 2016, you guys led at the half in Lane Stadium, a tough environment. How do you foresee your plan, panning out? Obviously, you're confident in your guys, but what are you guys going to address specifically against an ACC team?
I think the biggest thing is address is turnovers, trying to not have turnovers. Obviously, they're a good football team, and sometimes they're going to cause those things. But I've had to say that'll be the biggest thing is we must take care of the football to give us a chance. Hopefully, our defense can continue to create turnovers. They've been able to create 2 or 3 different turnovers, and we got to have 0, but we definitely can't have no more than 1. Nobody's going to be perfect, but that's the big emphasis. Take care of the football and create turnovers there will be the biggest thing to give us the best chance to be successful.
I talked to Bronco Mendenhall yesterday. He mentioned, your relationship with him from the AFCA, and he also mentioned that you had reached out to him, I think, at one point about going independent and kind of picking his brain when he was at BYU and going through it. Do you remember those conversations and maybe what you were able to glean from him?
Yeah, we talked about, like I said, we've talked about a whole lot of different things, family and so on, but just talking about it being at BYU as in Liberty University being very similar as far as independent, having a faith-based situation, and just how the positives was it for him and negative as far as his perspective. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details, but again, he gave me some great points and different things that I should be looking for, the things that I need to be talking about. His experiences that he had, a lot of it was positive from his experience being at BYU, being an independent, more about that, not talking about from the faith and all those things, but just talking about football-wise, how you handle that as far as an independent school. He really talked about, which I have here, having a tremendous relationship with the athletic director as far as how you're doing things with the scheduling and all those kind of things. So I've taken all those things into context, and we've implemented some of those things here with Ian, and it's been very, very positive. And like I said, we still continue to talk about a lot of different things.
How much at this point, having gone FBS and from a recruiting standpoint, is your staff, running into their staff and, kind of running up against each other a little bit now?
Virginia staff there? I'm gonna say a little. I mean, there's a little bit of some crossover in some situations. In most cases, we got somebody that really is stronger in that faith, and that's really what they're looking for. And if they're 50-50 on it, in most cases they're going to go to Virginia, just because of the situation that they're in as far as a Power 5. People get caught up into that, and that's okay. So I'm going to say a little bit that we do cross paths as far as in recruiting.
Coach, you mentioned Bryce Perkins as a dual threat quarterback for UVA. What concerns you the most, his running or his passing?
Running. And when I say running, it's both. And when I say both, I'm talking about running where he just takes off running and he makes yards as far as a rusher. but also just in his running ability to escape the pocket, being able to throw on the run, being able to make awkward type throws, going to the right, going to the left, going backwards, going sideways. So he's a very, very talented guy. We have to get our hands on him and get him down. You can't just grab him because he'll just kind of throw you off and keep going. So I've seen it many plays, and that's what he brings to the table. He can extend plays, and that's probably his biggest asset that he has.
When you look back to Saturday evening's game, with the way the game was going, unable to stop their team, keep them out of the end zone, then it goes into overtime. I believe in the second overtime, they scored first, and then Liberty got the ball back and scored a touchdown. Did you at all think about maybe going for two to try to end the game right there?
Quick thought about it. Quick discussion there with the staff and all that. But overall decided to go ahead and kick it and move on to the next overtime. Felt good about where we're at on both sides, but it crossed my mind.
When you talk with Bronco about being independent, did he ever relate to any stories about the transition phase of being part of that in any prior programs, or just what it's like being the independent and having to prepare each week for different challenges, plus also the challenges of many instances of being on the road for long periods of time late in the season?
Well, I think the positive of it, you get a chance to go national in recruiting. And being able to get your brand out all over the place. He said, I thought that was a positive thing as far as that goes. I think the scheduling part of it was trying to manage that. That's always a tremendous challenge that you're always trying to fit for your schedule, but it doesn't always match up. And hopefully there's give and take. When I say give and take, as far as certain schedules or certain years, you may have a positive thing, or you can maybe get more games as far as at your place. The 7 and 5, that's what he talked about a little bit, seeing if that can happen. BYU is probably a little bit stronger than us in our brand name, that they could possibly do that. If you can, that would work out. Trying to avoid the situation where you have back-to-back trips as far as road games, as far as 3 and those type of things. But again, we did a tremendous job here in the context of what we had to do it. It was a short period of time versus, again, BYU has been established over many years. So that's why I use that term transition. Again, the transition we know here in the first 2 or 3, 4 years, you continue to transition not only from the scheduling side of it, but also just in the pool and your players making the transition and all that aspect of it. So, again, he's a great resource, and I really value him.
Coach, how have your players bounced back from such a gut-wrenching loss on Saturday? Did it take a little bit extra time to kind of get them back on positive thinking?
No, I mean, I think part of it is kind of how we respond to it too. When I say we, I'm talking about we as coaches. Again, on Sunday, obviously we kind of handle it on that situation. Then once we come around here on today is really the first day that we actually totally practice and turn the page, if you want to call it that. Our guys come in and they've been positive and they move on and trying to get it ready. So that's how we talk about them. We don't rehash what has happened on Saturday. You just learn from it and keep pressing on. And you keep pressing on the goal. The goal is your job is to get better each and every week. And then it's our job as coaches to tell them specifically what they need to work on to get better. And we need to create that situation there for them, whether it's on the field, whether it's in a classroom setting, or whatever it may be, so they can improve as a team and as a unit.
This week leading up to the game, in planning, preparation, going up against a Power 5 and a team that should be favored to win the game, do you approach it any differently, maybe in how you address the team about just the environment they're going to face and then the level of talent the other team has?
No, I don't never get into that aspect of it. I guess it kind of goes into what we talk about every day is that, we're going to respect all of our opponents, and we're not going to fear anybody. You don't want to get all caught up into the logo. You don't want to get caught up into that they're better than this and better than that. As far as the X's and O's and where they line up, that's all we want to look at is they're lined up this way. We got to be able to attack this that way. They have some good personnel. We'll show the guy's strengths, but we also show some things about maybe a guy's weakness. So, again, that's just part of how we do it every game, no matter what the logo is. You don't want to make it any bigger than it is. You don't want to make it any less than what it is. You're playing a football game. You're playing against 11 people, and you got to do your job just like they got to do their job. Yeah, there might be one guy a little better here, but that's us as the coaches try to offset that. But we don't ever get into that kind of conversation.
with establishing the brand, how important is it for a player like Antonio Gandy Golden to be added to the Bolitnikoff Award watch list to add to that brand for Liberty and get that exposure out there?
Tremendous. Obviously, I guess number one, excited for the Liberty brand to get out through Antonio Gandy Golden getting that recognition. Obviously, very proud of him. Very proud of really all the people that's been in his life that have helped him to get to where he's at today. And it's going to continue to get him excited, continue to work harder. So I'm proud of where he's at. He still has a lot of things left that he can continue to improve on as a football player and as a person, as a student. But we're glad he's on our side because he's a tremendous person more than he is even a football player. So I'm excited about that opportunity that we've getting already here. Been first year as an FBS and getting the national recognition of a person like that. And Fred Bolitnikoff Award is a tremendous award.
Coach, a question from Saturday night, and forgive me if this has already been answered at some point, but just there was the stoppage right before the field goal, the game-winning field goal in overtime.
Oh, okay.
What happened there? Did they take a timeout, or what? What happened there? What was the reason for the stoppage, and what was the conversation you had with the officials?
The question I asked the officials said, "Do I have a timeout to use?" Because there was debate, or actually before the overtime, you get a timeout per, if you want to call it session. I'm going to say sessions from a standpoint. You get the ball once, the other team gets the ball once, and you get one timeout. So I asked him, I said, do I have a timeout left? And he said, yes, I do believe you do. So I said, yes, take a timeout. So then that's when all the discussion said that, no, you didn't have a timeout. So I said, I asked you the question, if I had a timeout, and you told me, you said yes, and that's why I called the timeout. So that was kind of the dialogue that went on back and forth. So technically, I guess I did not have a timeout, but I based it off of him asking. Because usually after each session, or even whenever you take a timeout, they come back and tell you and say, you got 2 left, you got 1 left, you got 0 left, or whatever it may be. So I shouldn't necessarily wouldn't have to ask it, but that was kind of the dialogue.
You talk about how this is a transitioning phase, and I truly admire your philosophy and the attitude that you guys carry as a team. You spoke about your brand, and I would say from a student's perspective, you guys carry it very well in every facet of the game. You guys study game to game. You don't think bigger than what it is. You guys focus in on the task, which is just to play the game of football. However, my question, if I may ask, what are your outlooks and dreams and hopes for the program years from now as it's a rising program in Lynchburg?
Well, I hope to continue to keep this brand going from a training champions for Christ to really continue to have that platform out there for people throughout this whole world, because that's really what we're all about. Use the game of football. Use this brand and the exposure that we're getting from the FBS level, where, again, a lot more people are asking the question, what about Liberty? Who is Liberty? What are they all about? And so this is a great opportunity that we get to share all the things about what late Dr. Falwell wants this university to be about, and that's training champions of Christ through the game of football, sharing the gospel, knowing that you got to accept Jesus Christ, your personal Lord and Savior, for you to make sure that you're going to go to heaven. So we share that with our recruits. We share that with people, coaches that we come into contact with on the field, off the field, and there's a lot of times you make phone calls to coaches after the game, and you get to know people and people you didn't know. So that's I guess to say the ultimate brand that we want the Liberty University to be standing for, is that we're champions, training champions for Christ, and we're going to honor God through everything we do through the game of football. It's just a platform, and so we're going to win, lose, or draw. We're going to give God the glory.
How much is Frank Boyd's role expanding now after the past 2 second halves where he's really provided a jolt in the running game?
I think that's still under evaluation. We feel good about all 3 or 4 backs. Obviously, I think he's earned some opportunities to play a little bit more. How much? We're going to make that decision as we continue throughout the week.